testing to see. Yes, we are live. Okay, we are in the building. No face today, y'all. It's kind of cold. I'm like literally bundled up. I still have my bonnet on. I have my hoodie on. I love hoodie season. But I'm not turning on no heat. It's 45 degrees outside, but we just gonna bundle up. So anyway, good morning to everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope you all had a wonderful week. We are getting into our second week of October, which is cool because now we will uncouple and maybe get a sense of who is in control. So let's start with our normal stuff. On Monday, we actually have a lot of things going on this week again, so be prepared. So Monday, you got the feds speaking. Now, this may not do much, but we are always aware of it. So you got the Monday, you have the feds speaking. Tuesday, again, you have them speaking. And then we have some data that's probably not going to do a whole lot, but again, something you want to be aware of. More feds that afternoon. I almost think it would be Jackson Hole or something. I didn't look it up, y'all. So if you know, go ahead and let me know. But yeah, this is what the things that we are aware of. Then on Wednesday, we have PPI. That's what's going to be the major thing at 8:30. And then there's more feds speaking. Then we have FOMC at 2 o'clock. Now, one thing y'all notice is that even though this will say, it's not going to let me do it, FOMC at 2 o'clock, it doesn't put it here, but we're going to go ahead and assume that Powell is going to talk at 2:30. All right, so we have our minutes, and then we're going to have Powell on Wednesday. Thursday, we have our normal job numbers, but then we also have CPI. Okay, that's a lot going on next week. It's a lot. So you have all of that, and then Friday you have Michigan consumer sentiment. So next week could be a crazy, volatile week. Kind of like this week was, to be honest. I think it was very volatile. We saw crazy moves in both directions. But yeah, so let's get into these charts. Okay, so you're going to see here with the VIX kind of something similar that you will see with the SPY and how it recovered its trend line. Okay, so the VIX has been in this somewhat short-term downtrend, right? It's tried to break up there a couple of times and it's basically failed, which really this trend line is our 200 and it's rejected it twice. I mean, it couldn't even close above it. Oh, excuse me, y'all. So that's a sign. We do know that if the VIX is red, then the market is green. So keep this in mind, all right? The VIX on the week has done this. Now, what I forgot to do here, I did it on everything else. Come on now. Was mark my stuff. So, really quick lesson. You guys know that we uncouple on Tuesday. So what you should do this weekend is go ahead and mark the quarter and monthly. They're going to be the same on your charts. So right now your quarter and your month are going to be the same, right? So we're going to mark it where it opened. All right, and we're just going to label that quarter and month open. All right, so that we know where it opens. The reason you do this is because now that we are about to uncouple next week, even though you'll have a quarter and a month that's the same, your next weekly will tell you a lot more about what's going on. Okay, so right now your full time frame continuity is going to be either mixed or it's going to be in one direction, but it can easily flip if it goes below this quarter and month open, Once it does this, if it goes below that, it's going to flip both the quarter and the month red, okay? So that's what you want to look for. You want to look to see the next open. So this coming week, when we open on Tuesday, go ahead and mark where we open at, whether it's lower, higher, whatever. On Monday, mark where we open at. Then on Tuesday, you'll have your next day open, and we'll really be able to see what we're doing on these charts, okay? So that is looking at the VIX. Again, it's a shooter on the week for the mobile. This is more like a gravestone doji. But it is definitely looking like it could do a 2 up, 2 down reversal. This is telling me that we may be green for the week, or even more, just because of how it rejected here. Now, we could open and then move above there, so watch the VIX. I really think it's at a critical point, but the fact that it rejected this trend line twice tells me a lot, okay? Also, again, it could still be saved. Why? Because it is above its 200. Well, it was above. It literally just closed below. But if you look at it now on the weekly, we saw that it closed below this trend line, right? When you look at it on the daily, it closed right on top of it. So when you look at it on the daily, it broke out of the downtrend, and this could be support, okay? So we want to see what the VIX does here and see if it falls through here. If it falls through here, we can look for more red, more downside, then the markets to be green. If it recovers from here, then the markets may continue on their downtrend. I do not know why I'm yawning so much this morning, y'all. Probably because it's early, even though I've been up for 2 hours. So, but that's neither here or there. All right, so looking at the dollar. So I'm not going to look at a lot of these on the monthly because we did that last week. So right now we just want to kind of see how they're setting up on the week. And then I want you guys to go back and look at how it's setting up from the week to the month, okay? All right, the dollar. Y'all, if this wasn't like go watch my video last week if you didn't, okay? I literally told y'all that we were at the top of this broadening formation. We had been running for weeks. And it was about that time. I think the market agreed with me because it rejected this and formed a shooter gravestone doji there. Okay, so it may be time for the dollar to make some correction. I am not saying it's going to give up all of this. When it does something like this, I am usually looking for halfway. So 103.46 is where I will be looking, which is also right around these EMAs. Halfway through, and that could definitely come on down, make another low if it wants to take out all of them, but my first stop would be halfway of this move. Or you could also fib it and just play those levels. So if you wanted to play the 23, then the 38, and then the 50, and then if it passes the 50, then we can expect it to continue down. That's almost like how the outside rule works. Okay, looking at it on a day, same thing. You got actually a head and shoulders here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. So I'm definitely expecting the dollar to come on down. NASDAQ, looking at NASDAQ, we're actually still in our shoulder area. Now, this is really interesting because last week we had an incredible Friday where we pushed so much. But when you look at it on the overall, on the larger time frame, we're still in this shoulder area and can still push all the way up until about 15,258 if we wanted to, and still be in our right shoulder area. Now, at the same time, we have also, I don't know why this isn't drawn. We have also hit the bottom of this broadening formation and kind of recovered around this upward trend line. So really interesting to see what it does, because a couple of things, and I'll show you when we get to SPY. I want to see if it I guess bounces from here or recovers from here. When you look at it on the daily, it's like right at a critical spot. It came down here, touched the bottom of that broadening formation, which was also happened to be the bottom of this trend line, and it recovered here. And since it recovered, it has been making higher lows, okay, right on this trend line. So watch NASDAQ. Now, at the same time, we did need to fill this gap, and we filled that gap. So we also rejected this right here. So if it does a 3-2 up, y'all know that's a nice continuation right there, okay? This also could be considered on the daily an inverted head and shoulders. So I'm really, really, really curious to see what happens next week with all this data, with Powell. Let them open, let them set up, and see who takes control here. Because again, right now we have all time frame continuity is green, but that can flip right here at 14,712. That's not that far. So really need to see where it will go. For me, it could definitely still go and touch this 200 down here. It could even go for this gap if it wanted to. To me, we are still in a downtrend until now. Granted, here we did make a higher high, but until we maybe TTO these people, or even over here, to me, this is still in a downtrend. Okay, let me show you guys something. If you look at it like that. All right, so it can come all the way up here and still get rejected, where the bears would still be kind of in control. So something to keep an eye on. The Dow is not doing anything. And I've said it before, I'll keep saying it again. The Dow is one of those things that you got to trade the range, or know the stocks that move the Dow and trade those. Like, the reason it has gone down like this is because of BA and Microsoft. We now have a somewhat morning star here on the weekly. So if we do see a push in the markets, that 2 down, 2 up would be nice, and we can look for it to come back to this 340. And y'all look at 340. It's an area that it's bounced from or rejected from several times. So it looks like it's just being a magnet there. And again, not doing a whole lot. However, this is key. We are under our 200, okay? So for this index, I am bearish because we are under our 200. We fell below it, we rejected it, and now we're a good amount below it. Okay, now it could also always do this, but the fact is we are below it, and it's starting to be up there, further up. Our shorter term moving averages are about to cross that larger term moving average. So if they don't recover the Dow from here and do maybe a 3-2 up and come back above this 200, that is looking really bearish. It's looking like short the rip for the Dow. Alrighty, y'all. IWM is actually completely and totally red time frame continuity right now. Okay, so again, that could definitely flip. You see, we broke below this trend line, but it could also recover if it wanted to keep going and flip this right back up. You do have a possible PMG on the week here, so that's something to be aware of. If we have a really strong push, IWM can definitely move. Also, if you look at it right here, it's just kind of considered a double bottom. I am putting this on my weekly list. I did not have that there to watch. Go back. Okay, yes, because we have this double bottom here and then that possible PMG on the week. So depending on what we do in the market, I will be watching. However, just like the Dow, we are way below our 200. Now remember, we were watching it back here. We said, oh, it's having beautiful head and shoulders on the daily, and then it fell. So now we have fallen a lot. We've even fallen past this area before that we were chopping it for so long. Okay, yes, we do still have room to move back to the downside, but we could correct and do, because a lot of these things you'll see on the daily have this 3 bar. So you want to see if the bulls are going to continue it in 3-2 up. It could still 3-2 up and get shorted right back down, y'all. We're still in this downtrend, and we're still below the 200 for IWM. Alrighty, the Qs. So the Qs look just like NASDAQ in the sense of where I was saying that you have your shoulder and your head, your shoulder. Even with that big push, we are still in this right shoulder area. So we could definitely still continue, even up to 372 and still be in a shoulder area, okay? On the weekly, we are in between these these 4 EMAs, so it's a little bit messy, but you just want to see, do the bulls, there's no 3 here, but do the bulls 2-2 and continue this and keep the time frame green, or do we flip it at about 359? That's going to be the level that will flip us red. All right, then you got again this 3 where we filled the gap. So do we 3-2 up? This is still a head and shoulders, shoulder, head, shoulder, but a possible inverted head and shoulders. So again, it can go either way. Let them open. See who takes control and who keeps control. Okay, Monday could be one of those Judas swings days where, you know, we may see that 3-2 up, but then Tuesday could turn around Tuesday and wipe it all out, or vice versa. You know, Monday could be even just an inside day and we don't know what happens, and then Tuesday, turn around Tuesday, they push it in one direction or the other. But basically, it's been chopping, and then Friday, it finally boomed. All right, that was a beautiful day. So, but we are still above our 200. So for me, if we do see more downside, that's my first target, 342.87, and then this gap fill here at 333. Checking really quickly. Okay. All right, SPY Bay. Now, SPY head and shoulders basically played out. Okay, we saw it come all the way down here, and I would like to say, I feel like I call this action to a T. If you have been rocking with me, then you know that I basically said this. Okay, I said this last week, that we were looking to see if it was going to hold this trend line, right? So I really want to talk about this because SPY gave action that it doesn't normally do, and you'll know this if you watch it a lot. So we had this where we rejected above the trend line, and then the next week we washed right below it, and then on Friday we were sitting below it with a double inside day. So let me show you that. This is how beautiful it was. So I told you guys from up here that once we turned, we were going to look for the 200 to be our target for this bear move, right? So we hit it. Then I told you guys last week that once we hit it, we may consolidate a bit around it while they choose who stays in control. We did that. Like, you may have had some good moves, but basically we consolidated right around the 200. Called that mess, y'all. And then this beauty right here. Now, again, double insides, anything is not a strat signal. Okay, so you cannot say, all right, I got a double inside week, and you know I'm looking for the 2112 up. No, that doesn't work. It's not a valid signal. Now, you still have your targets because you have your wicks, but when you have something like this, a double inside, you're going to want to drop down to a smaller time frame to find an actual strat signal. Okay, so on Thursday, I believe it was this. Yes, so you had your 2 down red and a slight 2 up. This wasn't enough. So what you could have done was waited for it to trigger this 3. And then once it broke past this quarter and month open, But this was actually the weekly open. So you knew it broke past the weekly open. It broke past all of this. That could have been your trigger to do this outside 3-bar on the 4-hour. So that's how you basically could have played that double inside day. But I think this is so fascinating how we washed below the trend line. We consolidated right about or below it. I mean, couldn't even break above it. But then on Friday, it really pushed. And that tells you the power of double insides. When you have this much consolidation, you can usually expect a big breakout. Now, they faked us out at first because Friday was non-farm payrolls. We dropped. You thought that the breakout was going to be to the downside, but it recovered, and the breakout was actually to the upside. So with SPY, again, we're going to see if the bulls are continue. SPY are going to continue. SPY still has a gap up here to fill if it would like to. And we still do have room to the downside if we want to. Now, we filled this gap, this little mini gap right here. And we don't really have, oh, we have one right here. That's way down there. Have to see what Powell does, but we do have a couple more gaps. 407 is one, and then 396 is another. But first, let's see how we act this week, okay? Let's see what we do. Let's see if the bulls come and at least retest these EMAs or fill this gap. This, you know, I was saying on Friday that this may have made me slightly bullish. But when I look at the overall larger picture, we're still in a downtrend. Okay, for us to break at least this short term, we need to 3-2 up. Okay, if we 3-2 up, then that will help. That as far as this one, oh, that's wrong, all wrong. Let's do it like that. So SPY could recover all the way to about 445 and still be in the downtrend. Well, not necessarily. I think if it recovered that much, these EMAs will start turning up. But I would need to see if it rejects there, because if you notice, since there, it's made lower highs, okay? So it would need to break this structure, this lower structure right here, fill this gap and continue, and then break that for me to say, all right, we're completely back bullish. But again, remember, for this short-term downtrend, this was my target. Then I said I would see from here, okay? So I am bearish for some, like the ones that are below the 200, and neutral for others like SPY, where it's sitting right around this 200. Because for me, this can go either way. So be prepared for that, all right? All right, now, let me get off SPY. Y'all know the SPY is bae. Okay, so Apple is kind of similar. I thought I had, oh no. I didn't have a trend line because Apple was going straight up like this for a while. So it broke that structure. Okay, and now as you can see also, it's also making lower highs. So you need to see if Apple will do anything next week to kind of recover and make it and see if it's actually going to recover from here or continue to die. This is a inverted head and shoulders here. So if Apple wanted to even chop, 173.68 is going to be my support for that. So as long as it stays above there, it could even chop for a few days and then boom up. We have a small gap here to fill at 181.57. Did it fill this one? It didn't even fill this one over here at 190. So this will be key, I think, to watch to see if SPY is going to move up and the Qs, because if Apple can recover, then the rest of the indices will recover. We have about 3 more weeks before Apple earnings. So really interesting to see if earnings season is what's going to turn us around either way. See here on the daily, though, that we found our 200, washed below it, but found support. And since then, you know, we've been above it. So again, before to keep the bullish activity, we want to do 173.60. ish. If it breaks below that, then we may see some more downside. All right, we still do have a gap here that was not quite filled at this 167.04. I think that's it for the gaps, immediate gaps anyway. So breaking the 200, that would be our first target. TF, good morning. Good to see you. Thanks for always being here. Like, I truly appreciate you. Real talk. And for commenting and engaging. Definitely appreciate that. All right, so Microsoft, a little bit different because it washed below, kind of faked this out. But if you see this 8 right here, it basically held that support. All right, it did a kind of a slight TTO here and then recovered. And then we were looking at this last week because we saw this evening star, morning star. Sorry, I'm saying them things wrong. I think it in my head. We saw this morning star, so we knew that if it could break and hold above 320, it would try to get to 330. It almost got there, 328.93. So, interesting to see if, again, the bulls keep it going. I'm going to leave this trend line here because, well, actually, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm adjust it just a little bit just to see if they do continue it or if this goes back to the downside. Looking at it on the daily, it did not quite hit its 200, so that would be my first target to the downside. If it does come down here at this 307, we do still have a huge gap here at 281 if we see much more downside. But this recovered its trend line and broke back above the EMAs, and they're starting to turn up. So that is a sign to me that we may be bullish. And again, if Microsoft and Apple are bullish, then SPY and the Qs will be bullish. Okay, another one that moves, and we don't talk about it too much, but I just wanted to show it. Amazon has an inside week here, right around its quarter and month open. Amazon is about, I want to say it's 6% of the Qs. Not looking at it right now. And maybe like 3% of SPY. So it's also another thing that moves them. Amazon, Google, but we just don't look at those all the time. So, but just showing you here how close everything is to the quarter and month open and how they can recover from here if the bulls want to step in, because we made our move down to the 200 on a lot of these stocks. So if the bulls want to step in, they can definitely step in now. Tesla is not a big mover, but you see it's kind of got almost a head and shoulders here, or almost an inverted head and shoulders. This can really go either way on the weekly. And then you have Meta. Meta is really holding very well. This looks like a bull flag to me on the weekly. And you can see the way it's been supported by the EMAs. Like, I was watching Meta for a drop. I believe it was it in August? I think so. I got my drop, but it recovered really fast and really hard. So Meta is another one that still may be good to move up. And if it does, then, you know, again, the indices are going to move up. And then just Google really quickly. Again, the same thing. It's been riding the EMAs upward, and it's basically still in an uptrend. So out of all of them, you know, you'll see the downtrends on a lot of them, but Google and Google and Meta are two that have been in great uptrends, and even with all of this corrective activity that we've had, they've kind of held their own. All right, so keep that in mind. Moving to these sectors. Let me look real quick. I just joined. I slept late, first time in a year. I'm glad you slept late. Sometimes we need that. Watching the news on, I can't read this here. Watching the news on the Israel-Gaza conflict through the night. Oh yeah, that definitely had you up. That's why you slept so good. Alrighty, so looking at these sectors, XLY, nothing. This is 2 weeks of nothing, right? But y'all know if you have 2 weeks of nothing, then that means the 2-week bar may possibly give you a setup. And we'll go into those later. But yes, we have a new 2-week bar starting tomorrow. So hello, 2-week long swings. Remember, when I bring you the 2-week list in a little bit, that you need to give these plays time, not just to set up, to show their hand, but to also play out. So these are not things I would suggest you playing a weekly. I would suggest you possibly get October 20th at the minimum for some of these plays, okay? All right, so XLY, you have a possible morning star here on the 2-week. So if you can, it may do a 3, 2 down, 2 up reversal. Keep in mind, it did get supported here by the EMAs. Okay, so again, looking at it on the weekly, it's not doing much. You want to see if it does break above to the upside. Otherwise, there's no actionable signal there. You kind of see what it's been doing on the daily. It's just hugging this 200. So right now, this is the magnet. So I would wait to see if we 3-2 up above it and maybe possibly go for this gap. Or if we maybe 3-1-2, because this is big 3 bar, 3-1-2 and lose the 200 and go for this gap to the downside, 154.28, okay? So watch your favorite XLY stock. If I'm not mistaken, XLY has meta. So we were just talking about meta and how green meta looks. So I would more expect it to go to the upside. Also, bond markets are closed tomorrow. That's true. Thank you for that reminder, TF. Bond markets are closed tomorrow, and it's also a bank holiday. Now, the markets will be open, but I would almost bet anybody that volume will be low. Unless you are very, very skilled, I would not trade tomorrow. I don't plan on trading tomorrow unless we have a solid trend day, meaning trending in one direction, which does not usually happen on a Monday, especially a Monday with low volume. So I am prepared to most likely not trade tomorrow, okay? So be careful out there, y'all. You have tomorrow being a bank holiday, then you have a whole bunch of data this week and then CPI, PPI. It's a whole lot. So please be careful out there. Be careful with your coins. All right, so XLK, no actionable signal here on the weekly. It recovered that EMA. On the daily, we have not quite touched this 200. So if we have any more downside, because I do kind of sort of see a head and shoulders here, but then also inverted head and shoulders. Y'all see the pattern here, right? Where you see that a lot. Short-term inverted head and shoulders, boom. But still in the larger picture, we're still in the right shoulder area. So if we come to the downside, 158.67 is what I'm looking for. Then this gap fill, 155.20. If we can break above these EMAs completely, then I say we're bullish because we're above all of the EMAs, and there eventually we're going to turn to the upside. Okay, so that XLK will be your technology. That's your Amazon, your Meta, your Google, stuff like that. All right, XLF was actually a really decent play last couple of weeks because of the bearish rev strat we had on the month. So yeah, I'm sorry, I was reading something. That's the Israel war. Yes, and then that as well. So yeah, XLF was, we had well, this one wasn't. It was GS that we were looking at that had the rev strat on the month. It had a double inside month, and it finally broke out. XLF does not look like that. However, it has moved, fallen. I cannot get my words out right now. Fallen for the last 3 weeks, but we did print a red Morningstar doji here, which could also be I'm not getting my words right here, y'all. It is a morning star. And the opposite of the gravestone doji is the Morningstar doji. So yeah. Ooh, alrighty. We're gonna get it right. But anyway, your favorite bank may do a 2 down, 2 up reversal on the week. So be aware of that. Otherwise, there is not an actionable signal there. We are below our 200, so we are for the most part bearish. So if we move to the upside, that's what would be our first target as a resistance, is that 200. Okay, there is a gap here to the downside if it wants to come down some more at 33. Was that 33? Sorry, I don't want to get a wrong level. 31. Sorry, y'all. Okay, XLC. Whole lot of nothing. This is just a whole bunch of sideways action. Okay, there's nothing going on there. It really is not doing anything but hugging these EMAs. It's like a magnet. So nothing going on there with XLC. XLE was like one of the best plays last week. Besides banks, energy had a nice fall. You know, we finally struggled at the top of that broadening formation and then finally fell. I'm still yawning. I feel like Moana dude. I'm still yawning. Okay. Looking at on the daily though, we came down to our 200 and we have recovered. So now we may chop around here. This may be a magnet while they decide who takes control. Okay. One thing I did not do. Let's do that real quick while we on here with y'all. I did not mark my levels for this new uncoupling. So I did this with all of the indices, but I did not do it with the sectors. It's just as important because we look at these and then obviously we are waiting for, or we are looking for our favorite whatever play inside of these. And so we do need to mark these levels to know what our time frame continuity is going to look like, or what we can expect, or even try to plan some trades for next week around how these are moving. Okay, so bear with me. Hopefully y'all get used to doing this. Then I'll mark all of these. Notice I'm marking where it opened. We were just on XLA, so I'll come back to that. I just want to finish this really quickly. XLU, XLI. As you can see, by the way, XLI is about to trigger the quarter to the downside. So watch that this week to see if that continues, because that could possibly be a nice swing that is finally ready. Alrighty. Okay, XLP, I'm gonna stop it. Just so y'all not waiting too long. Okay, so XLU, did we finish XLU? Yes, we did, because we said that was at the daily. Yeah. So I did want to say though that if it does come down, the top of this little trend line here would be my first target, 8308, and then it may want to fill this little gap to the upside if it moves to the upside. So also keep in mind, this is a shoulder, this is a head. Your shoulder could come all the way up here to this 89.89, which would still be time frame continuity red and all of that. So watch XLE. Okay, XLU, another one that just kind of basically fell. There's no actionable signal here. It's not really a hammer and it's red. And then we are well below our 200. So the bears are still in control. If anything, again, it made 3-2 up. It could come and reject where it opened at, or it can come all the way up to these EMAs, which would be halfway of this move. Okay, before it rejects again. But this is one of those that you're pretty sure it's in short the rip mode because we're under the 200. XLI, you have kind of sort of a hammer here on the weekly. So if it breaks up, it does a 2 up two down, two up, then it will flip our time frame continuity green. Excuse me. And then you also have a PMG here on the week if it wants to move up. So I don't think I had that on here, y'all. This is why I'm also got, sometimes I'll be missing this stuff and I don't put it on the list. But yeah, I like XLI for that possible PMG if we are green. I'm really not going to be too much interested in it if it does not do that move though. Okay, so the PMG would flip it green, and then it would probably reject this 200 first, and then it may go if it wants to continue going, because well, we didn't fill this gap quite yet. So 98.28, and then there's this big old like head here, and that shoulder could come all the way up to 104, or just fill this gap 103.81. So just have to see. Look at your favorite industrial. It may have a different setup here than what you have or what you're seeing right here. Good morning. Alright, XLV. XLV, we don't really have a hammer here on the week. And you can see we were consolidating. We broke down, and now we've TTO'd and recovered. So interesting to see what happens here. Not the only setup you have is the two down, two up. Not a whole lot of range there, but there is a setup and maybe something better on your actual healthcare one. And you can see we are above the quarter and month open, but below the 200. So that's going to be my first strong level to see if we actually can get back above that. If not, then that may be your rejection point. Have you looked into using the ICMO cloud indicator? There are YouTube vids to explain it. It's good for direction with different time settings. I think I have. I'm going to show y'all something real quick. I actually use the Sanning clouds indicator. So just so y'all know, if y'all look here, this says basic strat. When I do these videos with you guys, I try to keep these charts as simple as possible, and I still think that this is too much. I draw you the broad informations for y'all, but then you have all these lines. But just understand that's how I trade. I use strat plus EMAs and patterns. So that's why you hear me talking about head and shoulders, things like that. And I use the EMAs as different points of support and resistance, and then also with the way they turn. If they turn down, or like the 200 being flat and the price being below it, that means I'm bearish. That's the type of things that I look at. But when I'm actually trading, I use more of something like this, which is a combination of supply and demand zones that I understand, and Sanning cross clouds. I don't know why this stays up here. Sanning cross clouds, which I believe is something like the ICMO clouds. I got that from Jamal Sanning Super. Y'all may have seen him on the Twitter. If you don't know Sanning Super, he gives out he has like weekly giveaways where he gives out one-on-ones, and I learned this on a free one-on-one that I got from him. So outside of that, I don't use too many indicators, because over my time I've learned that indicators are so confusing when you have too many. So I try to not keep a whole lot on there. I used to have like the Trading View plan that had like 8, 9, whatever, and I'd have all 9 on there, and it just got to be too much. I feel like you don't need that much unless you specifically use that strategy. So again, I use the strat, I use EMAs, and I use patterns. So with that, I don't really need a whole lot of indicators. And I really do think that simple is much more better. But TF says, YouTuber Aridi, I probably just butchered that, trading uses it, worth the peek at what he does. So if anybody's interested in the ICMO clouds, you can look at YouTuber ARETE trading according to TF. Thank you for that tip. Okay, so we were on XLV, XLP. Also, no actionable signal here. It just basically died. What I'm noticing is we did TTO these folks out and these folks out. So it could inside day and then recover because it is kind of far away from the EMAs. So, looking like it could use some type of corrective activity to the upside. Okay. And then look at this bleed. Then we have a morning star. Okay, so I'm really thinking the XLP could give at least a 2 down, 2 up reversal to the upside to correct to this 8 EMA. Now, if you see here, it has not broken above that in a while. It could, and at least come up here to this, to my 30. If you fib that, that's off. If you fib that, coming up here to this 8 is 38%. That 30 would be a lot, but it could definitely still do it. So I would at least look for 68.97 though to give us some kind of corrective activity. That fresh TTO, these stops are gone. So we're looking for it to reverse and then a new opportunity to short. It could really probably be shorted right back here at the open. All right, so XLRE retail broke through our flag and came down. TTO'd them out, so you kind of have a similar situation here. It's not really an actionable signal there, but we know that it TTO'd, so if it does want to recover and at least come back up and maybe take these folks out or even test this 30, then we can catch some of that upside run. Remember, again, like I told y'all, I trade with the EMAs. When a price is far away from these EMAs, we expect it to come back up and test it, okay? Look at here. Look where the EMAs were here, and look where price is. And it definitely came back up and retested it, right? Before it rejected. And look over here. How far away it is. It definitely came back up and retested. So that goes either way. If you're far up above it, we expect it to come back down and retest it. And here's where we would look and say, okay, will they bounce from here and go back up? No, it fell through. All these EMAs are turning down. That's how I look at those. Okay. And then of course, when I see the EMAs, I'm saying, all right, what strat signal do we have here? We got a double inside breakdown. We got a 2-1-2 breakdown, that type of thing. So hopefully y'all understand me. Tia says, I'll check it out. Yes, simple is better. And getting perspective from multiple traders is the most help too, such as yourself. Much respect, worth it. Thank you so much, Tia. I really, really appreciate that. And I actually completely agree. When I did that one-on-one with Sannon, like I was already doing my YouTubes. Like, it's not like I didn't know what I was looking at, but he is the one that really got me started looking at sectors. Okay, like I wasn't looking at sectors before him. So yes, perspective from multiple traders help, because a lot of us are trading the same way. We just say different things, and it's really fascinating to see that. So like, yeah, when we say a TTO in the strat world, someone may say a bounce. It's just it's crazy, but yeah. Multiple perspectives definitely help. And that's why also I appreciate you being here, TF, because you always come with something. Like you and the capitulation is in my head because you were saying it for like 3 weeks. So yes, I appreciate you very much. All right, XLB, again, almost a little bit of a hammer, but not really. We are below our 200 on the daily with some consolidation here. This actually looks like the start of an inverted head and shoulders. Got your shoulder, you got your head. It would have to stay above the 76, 78 for me to think that's valid, meaning it can't go fill this gap. If it does go for this gap, that's going to invalidate that. It's going to continue on the downside. But if it does, say from here, go to the upside, at least towards this gap here at 80, 83, then that will be valid. Okay, so that's what that might do. XOP. We broke out of this bull flag and then came back down, retested it, and closed it a little bit below. So basically it was this 200 retest. Interesting to see if it falls from here and that was the end of that, or if it can go back to the upside. All of these EMAs are turning down to me though, so it's looking a little bearish. One thing I don't want to be is too bearish though, because we don't forget seasonality. Remember seasonality. September is usually bearish and October is called the bear killer for a reason. Okay, as people they got so bearish from September, and October is when we turn around and people are still trying to short and they get cooked. That actually happened to me last year. This is why I'm telling y'all, October last year is when we turned around. So I am very cautious and very aware that we could be turning around at any point. And then also on the charts, we hit the target, that 200. So but a lot of these are still looking bearish. We just don't want to be too bearish. This is completely bearish to me. We're under the 200. You can use these as points of resistance where it's rejecting, or even this 8. So honestly, this still has these folks in me want to take out this 56.29. That would be my first target to the downside. And then to the upside, if it wants to try to test this 30, which it hasn't over here since August, then that would be my target, 61.16. Airlines, y'all. I'm laughing because I missed all of this. But, you know, like I was telling with TF, simple is better. I can't watch everything. I can't catch everything. But this is like BA, UAL. I mean, this is a melt. Okay, so now you have a possible PMG back to the upside. And even if you did that, I'm going to show y'all something. Even if it took out 1, 2, 3, 4, if it PMG'd back up, it still wouldn't get to 50% of this down move. Okay, let that sink in. 50% is about 1944, and that PMG target would be about here. Now granted, it could definitely, because that was the last green bar, but that would be right after the 50%, right at the 50% move. So if you're watching any of these, if we do have some bullish activity, look to see if it will at least correct about 50% before it continues. BA, that would be a lot. I don't think it would. I think it maybe would correct to maybe 23 or 38, because 50 is putting us right back into here, which they chopped over here for so long, broke out and then died. Now that we've TTO'd, if it wanted to recover, I would give it to maybe 205 before continuing to the downside. BA though triggered 3-2 down on the quarter, so it has a lot of room that it can still fall. But again, if you want to have your jets or one of your airlines do some recovery after all of this melt, then it's time. Also, you know, we were talking about jets and airlines because the season was starting. Travel season is about to start too, holiday season. So now that it's melted, done some TTOs, it may want to recover a little bit for the travel season. My first target, of course, would be this 200, where I think it would reject that. So watch jets to see if we have a turnaround. You got lithium battery again is on a downtrend still. It's no bottom in sight here. Again, using the EMAs as support, as resistance. SMH. So SMH is, like SOXL. We have a head and shoulders here. It recovered. It basically kind of made the move, recovered a little bit. So now we have to see if the shoulder stays valid. So 154.10 to about 156 would be the top of my shoulder area. To see if it wants to move from there. But if you look and see, this is just really a chop area. However, where we ended at is kind of a strong support / resistance zone. So it can most certainly reject from here. Okay. That is, put this here. That's what we forgot. Well, I forgot. Oh, and that's another thing. Jets is triggering the 3-2 to the downside. Wait, did I? Where did I stop? I stopped at XLV? Okay, I stopped at XLV. So these ones that I was just talking about were being bearish. As you can see, they have triggered or about to trigger on the quarter. So keep an eye on that. Next week we will go through some of the ones that may have started moving on the quarter and what setups we can see. I usually like to wait until at least that first week first couple of weeks have gone by and we have uncoupled, because you cannot be uncoupled and take these signals and they could flip around on you. So all right, we did SMH, SOXL, IYT. I'm gonna tell you, I have not really been doing much China. Well, this is transportation, but I haven't been doing much China because those gaps has me. So this is also about the trigger on the quarter. This is what I'm talking about. Look at China, y'all. This is sad. Your favorite China stock is probably in the dumps right now. It's not really. Yeah, it could still go down, but like I don't really like to play things when they're at like their bottoms like this. Especially when it's not a whole lot of room to go down. But then look at that. These charts are ugly. Like if you have a favorite like Baba or Baidu or something like that, you can play that. But yeah, otherwise, All right, so that is it for the sectors. How long am I going now, y'all? I'm almost at an hour. I was trying to keep it under an hour. Okay, your 2 week setups. Here are some of your 2 week setups. You got Microsoft. If we're bullish, you got the 3-2 down, 2 up. You have ZOM if it wants to continue, because remember with ZOM we have triggered, I believe it's the monthly. Yes, we triggered the monthly. We do have a little bit more to go. 104.87. I believe my target was like 103 something. I may have had that wrong. It may have been a Webull chart. But if it does a 3-2 down, I know y'all. If it does a 3-2 down, is my battery saver on? Because I need this to not cut off while I'm doing this. Come on. Come on. Oh, it's on. Okay. All right, I definitely got to get out of here. ZOM, yes, there is no 3-2 down here, but if the 2 week is the 3-2 down. Apple, you have a possible STRAT here. So again, remember all of that I was talking. If Apple and Microsoft go, we're gonna see some green in the market. And with this STRAT here, we're looking. So watch Apple. You got Tesla with the 2 down, 2 up, possibly. Especially if the rest of the market is green, these things are gonna go. TF says, I'm in a trade I entered on Thursday because of tools I use and knowledge of the ticker's past performance. I would do a penny stock on occasion. This one is TTOO. I took position at 0.193. Yeah, I don't do penny stocks anymore. I got cooked on those when I first started and I just stayed away. But I really love when people can do that. I do know that with those you really have to buy like a lot of them so you can catch those like little moves. I make profit on Yang. That's what's up. Yay. Watch oil tickers with the conference going on now. Remember the Ukraine run. Yep, I agree with that. All right, Starbucks. So Starbucks broke through this raw formation and recovered, and then we printed a morning star on this 2 weeks. So that's what I'm looking for, to see if Starbucks wants to recover.